Morning.
Morning.
An interesting thing somebody sent to me, in fact, it's one of my cousins, and you may have seen it on Facebook. It's pretty interesting on the left side of your bulletin. Somebody once said to Billy Graham, if Christianity is valid, why there is so much evil in the world. When we think about what's going on in the world today, it seems like there's more evil than ever before. Let me tell you something, there's no more evil now than there was when the Bible was written. When you read about what had happened to Joseph and his kids, Joshua, where they sold their brother in slavery, and on you read the rest of Genesis from 39, 40, 41 through 44, and you read the one part where the Pharaoh was upset with Joseph was thrown in jail because he wouldn't mess with Pharaoh's wife, which that is what she wanted. I guess she'd come under the category of desperate housewife. But she didn't get away with him, so she lied and Pharaoh threw him in prison. Well, while he was in prison, two of the Pharaoh's servants were thrown in prison also. And through the dream, if you read the rest of the story, there was one dream where the cupbearer, he was okay, but the other guy, Pharaoh took him, beheaded him, and put him on a spear, and put him up for all to see. And the birds, his head was on a stake, and the birds were picking the brains out of Pharaoh's servant. Now, none of our presidents have ever done that. And I don't even know of any modern day kings that have ever done that. We had some bad characters in the Middle East, but none of them have ever read or heard about, and as much news as we have today, you would think that have pictures of somebody putting another person's head, severed head, on a stake for the birds to eat the brains. Well, evil then is evil now. So you go on to read what Billy Graham said. He replied, with so much soap, why are there so many dirty people in the world? Christianity is like soap. It is like soap. But it must be applied. It must be applied. You can have soap on the wall. I remember a time when we had a couple of people who were in our number who didn't bathe in a regular, well, they just didn't bathe. And so somebody thought, well, if we set some bathing products, soap, shampoo, and that stuff, next to where they sit every week, because they sit at the same place every week. And then look where Beth is. She's back there by herself. I guess she's waiting to make room for the second crowd to come in. I don't know. Well, anyhow, they put that bag of cleaning products, soap and shampoo and body wash and all that, right next to them, and it didn't do any good. You can have all the soap in the world, but if you don't use it, you don't get clean. You don't get clean. So Christianity is like soap. It must be personally applied. Christianity has to be applied. And when you read the story of Joseph, you'll find some interesting things that took place. And our lesson today is we must stand firm and we must stand down. Now, stand firm means we can't go along with the normal of the crowd. Now, they're there, and you might say, well, if I don't go along with them, I won't be their friends anymore. Well, forget it. You don't need a friend like that. You don't need friends that are going to lead you to hell. You don't need friends that are going to lead you to become a drunkard or a druggie. Say, hey man, try a little bit of this. This is good. Good starts with an S. This is good. Never could figure that out. Always thought that was when I was in the woods and had to go. And, didn't have toilet paper. You'll get it on the bus. So they say that, man, this is good stuff. Try it, man. This will make you and you get in there, go on and on and on and on. And then one day, you're ending up on a slab at the county morgue. Or your brains are fried. Well, we just can't go along with the crowd. We must stand firm. We must stand firm. And when somebody tells you everybody's doing it, let them do it. You stand firm. If you don't stand for something, you're a fall for anything. You got to stand firm. But you must stand out. Well, stand out doesn't mean that you're rude, crude, and obnoxious. I know those people. I've spent time with those people who were so obnoxious when no wonder those people don't want to be part of Christianity because they're so obnoxious. And when you read all of 39, we're not going to read the whole thing. But since Randy don't want to be a part of us anymore on Sunday mornings, I got another man. Oh, Bobby. I can call myself Bobby. So, is this mic on, guys? Can be. Can be, could be, should be, yes. Since Randy's not here, I've chosen another fellow to do this.
Genesis 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. The Lord was with Joseph, so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. With me in charge, he told her, "My master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, He refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. One day he went to the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants. "Look," she said to them, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story. "That Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me, but as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." When his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did.
The Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Ask yourself the question, can I be like that? Can I be that the Lord is with me? You say, well, that's Bible times, and whether those stories are true or not, I don't really know. And that's what the younger generation is saying now. That's old stuff. This thing is so old. It's written most of it's written over 2,000 years ago. Even long before that, long before the death of Jesus. Well, the birth and the death. Joseph was betrayed, deserted, and sold as slave. And later on, put in prison because he went dilly-dally with the Potiphar's wife, his boss's wife. Now, you may have never been put quite in that position, but everybody, if you want to be honest, have been put in the position that somebody wanted you to do something that wasn't in favor of the eyes of the Lord. As you heard in chapter 39, you heard over and over again, and the Lord was with him, and God was with him. God was with him. God was with him. God was with him. You hear that over and over again. The Lord was with him. And then the master saw him. Pharaoh saw the kind of man that he was, so he put him in charge of everything in his house. Isn't that something? And so God will put you in charge. If you're serving him. If you're not serving him, you'll just go on through life. You go on from one problem to another. One problem to another. I'm faced with a problem right now. I have a big problem. Do we keep this going or do we close the doors? Right now we need $500 towards the mission in Africa. Right now. Not last week, not the week before, and not the month before. Right now, we need it. Do we close it up and say, call those people who hardly can get by on what we send them, but we call them and say, hey, well, that little bit that we send you, you're not going to get it anymore. How are we going to find favor in God if we act like that? If we work to the point that it's too much for us. Right? Right now I know of a family in New York where they don't have food. Their water's been cut off. Right now. It's been cut off for the third day. And they need food. The man just got work. Some of you know him. Last year he helped us at Steamerama, Cisco. Has a child there that Trina takes care of. She'll never be able to walk, never be able to talk. You can see whether or not she's upset or happy with her eyes and her facial expressions. It's like when I stand here, no matter how great or small the crowd is, I can see expressions on people's faces. I've been reading people's faces for a long, long time. And then some of you have been reading my special expressions for a long, long time. The important thing here is the master saw the Lord was with him. I ask you where you work, those of you who are still working. Can people see that the Lord is with you? Can people see that you're a different person? Have you taken the stand? Or are you afraid that if I do that, they might fire me? Well, go ahead and fire me. Write the check. That's right. I'm going to stand firm. Amen. For years I worked construction. Many years. In Florida, I had over 380 carpenters alone working for me. 500 laborers working for me. And then in Iowa, I had carpenters, iron workers, cement finishers, and pipe fitters working for me. And operating engineers. Don't want to forget those special people. And every last one of them knew where I stood. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you, you stand firm. Stand firm. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be obnoxious. But you stand firm. And you let people know. And you don't have to walk around going, I'm a Christian, 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 I love Jesus, I love Jesus, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about when they see you day in and day out. You don't even have to tell people. I love it when they tell me they come off with profanity and then they say, pardon my French, and say, excuse me, but I never knew that was a French word. Look, pardon my French. Well, one thing about it, if you stand firm, you don't even have to tell people, and people will know and recognize that you are a different person. Amen. You're a different person since you met Jesus. Amen. So you're a different person, you met Jesus. Then the Lord gave him success. Even after he was treated and mistreated, the Lord gave him success. And I think I told this story before, and I'll probably tell it again because I'm over 70 and I can repeat if I have to. Or even if I don't even remember, I can still repeat. And like I said before, you know you're getting old when the young people start to finish your sentences. A very close friend, a pastor friend of mine in Lakeland, Florida. When I was doing my student ministry, we would be invited there to preach. Very strong man, loved the Lord. Nancy called him Blue Eyes. He was about 5'4", not very tall. But he got a call from this lady that was in the congregation. a very affluent lady, one who was one of those people who donated a lot of money to the church. Small church in Lakeland, Florida. When he knocked on the door, and she came to the door, when she opened the door, and he stepped in, and she, boom, dropped her robe, and she was, now, I fear to say buck naked, because I don't know what a buck naked is. But I do know what naked is. She was completely nude. And he said, whoa, 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 and he backed out and he left. Well, she put the word out. She told the elders of the church, or somebody, I don't know who, but she put the word out that he came and tried to seduce her, like Potiphar's wife. It destroyed his big ministry in Lakeland, Florida. It destroyed it. And he said, no, 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 I live. And she swore and declared up and down that he tried to molest her or whatever. So you see, it's no more evil today than it was evil then. The only reason it's evil today, we've got 4 or 5 channels on TV, on cable and satellite TV, that 24 hours a day, there's news. If somebody burps in B flat in Saigon, you hear about it 15 minutes later. Now, it's not quite like that, but you know what I'm talking about. It's bang. We know about it. And that's why it appears to be more evil to us older folks. To the younger ones, it doesn't matter. So Libya, Elizabeth, Carmi, it's just something that old people talk about. Well, I'm telling you, the reason it seems more evil today than it ever was because we've got more news today. More news today. The thing that provokes me with the fake news is they don't talk about the good things, the groups. I can tell you one Christian group right after another, teenagers, young people, who are going and working for the Lord in different communities and different situations. But it never hits the news. What hits the news is Brother Joe Bob took a pistol and went over to the shopping center and shot up about 20 people. That hits the news. Because I like what else somebody said to me on Facebook. Guns don't kill people any more than a pencil writes lies. Guns don't kill people any more than a spoon makes a person fat. So we hear more about it today than we ever did, and that's the way it is. There's just so much more news. So what do we do about this? So here we are, we're in our life, and we're trying to pay the bills, and of course, who made the bills? Some bills are made, and other bills just come along. If I told you of the electric bill that's due the 29th at my house, everybody here would have an afro. You'd just curl your hair. It's staggering. But I never signed on the dotted line for that. Like a credit card that's in my name, or a mortgage that's in my name, or a vehicle payment that's in my name. I never signed on the dotted line for that. It's one of those things that it's been hot and the AC. Think about this, 6 window units running almost 24 hours a day. I'll tell you what that's like. And I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it. Let me tell you what that's like. It's just like this. It's just like this. It goes. That's the way it goes. Just like that. The money just flies. But to a certain extent, you may pick it up. You can pick it up. To a certain extent, we are in control.
That's right.
We are in control. Only if we do what God wants us to do. And what God wants us to do. Now, what I wanted to do is I want my great-granddaughter to pick up the money. If anybody watching on YouTube or wherever it is, I can never find our program on wherever it is. You see, I don't even know where it is. That's why I can't find it. But if there's anybody watching, my great-granddaughter rushed to put it all in. Not just because I asked her to do it, because she loves me. God will rush to take care and lead you if you love Him. He'll be with you in the house. He will be with you on everything that you do. And during your life, can people see that you stand firm? And then we move on. After Potiphar, after his wife, you heard the story, after she said that he wouldn't mess with her, she lied and got into trouble. There are people who will lie on you. There are people who lie on you. Troy and I stood in a courthouse in York, downtown York. When it comes our turn to testify, and the people who took us to court, their turn to testify, they lied. They lied through their teeth. And when it's Troy's turn to take a stand, he stood up there and he told me, "You solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, help you God?" He said, "I affirm." And so he starts. And the attorney says, "Well, but that's not the way we have told." He said, "I don't care what you've been told." And he looked to the judge, because the judge is sitting there. He looked to the judge and said, "The truth is," and they said, "The truth is not important here. These people are lying on us." And the court, they took the lies, and it cost us a lot of money. When the judge slammed the gavel on that thing down, his hammer, his wooden hammer, boom! And then we had to pay because somebody lied. Somebody will lie on you just like Potiphar's wife lied on him. She lied on Joseph. And there's people who will tell lies about you. One of the things I found out through the years, and quote unquote, I call them, quote unquote, friends, that I spend a lot of time with, and then they lie. When Nancy was laying in the hospital with Trenda, a friend of ours came to help take care of Troy. She was good looking, our age. And while Nancy was in the hospital, she wanted to mess around. So what do you think happened?
Wasn't taking care of Troy anymore.
Wasn't taking care of Troy anymore. And that was just right around the corner from where you guys live. I guess Nancy went to her grave thinking that something happened. But it did not happen. Did not happen. So people will lie on you. Did I think she was good looking? Did I think she's pretty sharp? Yeah. But she and her husband were our friends. We'd go to carnivals, just different things. That's what we did together as couples. Even then, I wasn't living for the Lord. But I knew that that was wrong. I knew that that was wrong. And we couldn't do that. So, you youngsters, you're going to have friends who will have parties. I was watching something the other night on Dateline. Missoula, Montana. I've been there. Flew in there in the middle of a storm one time. Snowstorm. What a deal that was to the airplane landed. At that time, Missoula was known as the rape capital of the world, or of the states. There were so many young ladies being raped. So the one lady they interviewed on the Dateline, she said, I was drunk out of my mind, I was wasted, and they gang raped me. And then they talked to another gal, young gal. She was raped. And then another gal came forward and said, well, I was raped too. And the one thing that they all had in common, they were at parties at a friend's house. And the booze was flowing. The booze and the drugs. And so I said, well, the thing about it is, the one thing, and that what they did was wrong. No question about it. But they portrayed her, the law, they just kind of dismissed it because she told them that I was drunk out of my mind, passed out, and 4 of them raped me. Well, how'd she count to 4 if she was passed out?
Amen.
But because everybody in the party was doing it, man, after all, that's the thing to do, because if I stand firm and said, no, I'm not going to drink that stuff. I'm not going to smoke that stuff. I'm not going to take that pill. Stand firm. Say, well, my friends will never, no longer like me. We We can say that at our age. See, at our age, we don't have hardly any friends anyhow. My age, my friends are dying. I don't even have a hunting buddy and a fishing buddy anymore. They've passed. They're gone. And the longer I live, the more of them die. And at our age, we can say, who cares? But at the young age, it means everything to be accepted into the group.
That's right.
When I played football for dear old Red Line High, I'll ever look back to the gold and black of dear old Red Line High. When I played football for dear old Red Line High, we'd have a party or a gathering. I grew up, there weren't allowed to say party in church as a girl. That was a sin to say party in church. We had a gathering. And the beer was flowing. That time, it existed, but not among the high school students at that time. And the guys would chug a look, and they'd get wasted, and then I'd drive them home. And I never drank a beer. I sipped it, breathe. And I remember friends saying, well, if you drink 3 or 4 of that, it'd be easier you'll like it. And so let me tell you, I wouldn't go to a restaurant and got a bad steak that I'd have them bring me 3 or 4 more so I can get one that tastes right.
That's right.
I'm not going back there again. In fact, we were at a restaurant Friday evening, and I'll not be back there. And I'm not going to tell you which one it was. I'll not be back there. After an hour, 45 minutes or 40 minutes, they finally brought our food, and my food was cold. Now, tilapia potatoes with broccoli, and it was cold. And guess what? I won't go back. I won't go back there 4 or 5 times until I get one taste right. And so that's what I told my friends in high school to play football. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just sharing with you the experiences that I've had. And the experiences that you had. If everybody started telling their experiences, then it would come out. Co-workers gossip. In the workplace, the co-workers that you work with, the gossip. The gossip in church. You can be part of it, or you can say, no. I stand firm and I'm not going to talk about it. As much as you'd like to say what you really know, or you think you know. And then remember this, I told Elizabeth this before. Not everything is what it appears to be.
That's right.
Not everything. Some things, but not everything. These friends, so-called friends, will lead you astray.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't wait to see you get high.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to see you get drunk and get wasted. Can't wait to do that. And after all, everybody does it.
Yeah.
Elizabeth tells me, she said that when people act different around you, when they're not around you, you wouldn't believe how some people act and talk. Honey, I believe it because I know. I have lived it. I know what it's like. I know what it's like. Are you working just for money? Are you working just for money? We need to reach a point where we're not just pleasing ourselves or pleasing friends or pleasing people that we know. All too many times, church members are working to please themselves. And people are not here today, and most of us just because they please themselves.
Yeah.
They want to please themselves, whether it's at St. Mattress, or out fishing, or out, well, it's not hunting right now. They want to please themselves. Barbara told me of her niece and her husband. They're selling their house. They're selling everything. Had a big yard sale last week for 2 days. They got a big motor home, and they pull a little car behind them, and they pull a boat. And they're going to be traveling all over the United States. And where are they going to go to church? Well, just about every campground throughout the country they do have a church service of some sort on a Sunday morning. But what happens to the home church that they're part of when they're gallivanting all through the United States and they're grossly about the motorhome probably gets about 6 gallons to the mile. Well, not quite that bad. It's a diesel. I just wonder, they're 10%. And they're sending 10% back to the church. They just feel that they've earned it, so after all, they've worked hard for one to God. They never had any children. And I feel bad for them because of that. My treasures, some of them sitting right there. It's my treasures. They've never had any children, so they're pleasing themselves by taking the motor home, the little car towed behind it, and the bass boat, and traveling the nation. You say, well, boy, that's really great. I sure wish that, but some people have all the luck. Well, they worked hard. But my point is they're doing that to satisfy themselves. If we try to satisfy ourselves, then we're losing favor in the Lord.
That's right.
I spent 55 years with the same woman. 55 years. I'd like to say marital bliss, but I don't know what marital bliss meant. But I'm telling you, Nancy's last words to me on January 8th, 2016 was, we had a great ride. Those are the last words she said to me. We had a great ride. I don't know if she spoke any other words. Maggie, do you know if she spoke any other words other than that? That was the last word she said. We had a great ride. We've been in places and done things that people only dream and fantasize about. We had a good time. Was I tempted? Yeah, buddy. I've been tempted. The temptation's there. The temptation is always there. Pastoring a church, you had different ladies that would come to me and have other things, ulterior motives, instead of what the Lord has to say. They want to know what I have to say. And you got to stand firm. But after all, they're in the church. The one lady said the pastor's supposed to take care of the wives of the one with the in Florida. She said her husband didn't take care of her properly, and since he was the pastor, he should take care of her sexually. She wasn't worried about money. She had money. She just was worried about taking care of her sexually. And it destroyed the whole mission there in Lakeland, Florida. So, it's a hard thing to say no. In the 55 years, I was faithful to God first, and then Nancy. To God and Nancy. My generation, it seems like most of us my generation, people around my age, you'll see it in obituaries if you read the obituaries. In fact, if you're young, you don't even look at the obituaries. You don't even know where it is in the newspaper. You don't even look at the newspaper. But you will see people around my age are married 55 years, 54 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, some of them 70 years. Well, not quite, we're 76. But I see some of the 81, 82-year-olds, 85-year-olds, been married 65, 69, 70 years. Person told me one time, well, say, I've been married that long. 4 different husbands.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So here we have a man who was sexually seduced, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown in prison. There's not a person in here today that will be thrown in prison for what you've done wrong. If you're serving God, if you love the Lord, you'll find favor in the eyes of God.
Amen.
Second Timothy 4:7. What did Paul say? He had a lot of fiery darts thrown at him. What did he say? As for me and my will serve the Lord. He put his foot down and he said, as for me and my house. Paul was thrown in prison. In fact, he probably, 2 Timothy, he wrote that when he was in prison. As for me and my house will serve the Lord. So I share with you today, stand firm. What's the other one I put on there? You were supposed to shout out.
Stand up.
Stand firm and stand out. Stand firm and stand out. We sang a song for years in Sunday school. No found grace in the eyes of the Lord. No found grace in the eyes of the Lord. You find grace in the eyes of the Lord. God was with him. When you get a chance, read Galatians 39 again. And you will read, and you will see, over and over, that Joseph found faith in God. And God was with him. And God was with him. And God was with him. In our today's mentality, we want to say, well, if he didn't do that, then God was with him, then why did God let that happen to him? You read the rest of the story. Clean up into 44. Genesis 44. Read straight through. No found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Would you all stand, please?